Okay, this is volume part 2. So we know that volume equals length times width times height. And using that formula, we can then in turn find the height, the length, or the width if we have volume and the other two variables. So let's look at this really quick. Volume equals length times width times height. So if I already know the volume and I know two of my variables and I'm looking for height, I can rearrange my equation so that I can find height. And height equals volume divided by length times width. Okay? Because you're doing the opposite of to move it to the other side. And we talked about that in class too. So this can also be written as height equals volume over length times width. So it can be written and solved in either way. This is the same is true for length and width when we're finding those. So length is going to equal volume divided by height times width. And that can also be written. Length equals volume divided by height times width. And the same is true here. Width equals volume divided by length times height. And that can be written as a fraction as well. So whichever way you prefer. So depending on what information you're given and what the question is asking for, you can rearrange your formula to find any given length, width, height, or volume. All right, so let's try the first one. So the first one says, the volume of a rectangular prism is 24 cubic centimeters. The length of the rectangular prism is 3 centimeters and its width is 2. Find its height. So we're looking for height. We know its volume, 24 cubic centimeters, divided by, we know the length is 3 and the width is 2. We can write that in two different ways. We can write it how we just did right there, or we can write it as a fraction. Okay? We know that 3 times 2 is 6, and according to the order of operations, we would do parentheses before. So 24 divided by 6 equals 4. Or here you can do that this way. 24 over 6 simplified is 4. All right, let's try another one. So let's try this one right here, this rectangular prism, number 10A. They give us the volume, they give us length and width, and we're looking for height. So volume divided by length times width. Okay, I'm just going to scroll this up a little bit so we can do the math. I know 8 times 8 is 64. You can look at it that way, or you can look at it in this way. Whatever's easiest for you. The only reason I like to do this first is because I can simplify and maybe come out with a little bit easier numbers to deal with. I know for sure that I can divide by 2. If you want to do that, you can. You can divide top and bottom by 2. If not, then you can go ahead and solve the long division. I cannot make any groups of 64 out of 5, and I cannot make any groups of 64 out of 57. I'm looking for how many groups I can make out of 576. So if that's the case, I have to estimate in my head to kind of get a starting point. I know that 10 groups of 64 is 640. So we're not too much off. So I'm going to start with 8 or 9. Okay, thinking about that, I'm going to start with 8 or 9. So I think that I'm going to go ahead and start with 9, but I don't know if that's right. But it's okay, at least it's a good starting point. It's an educated guess. 9 times 4 is 36. 9 times 6 is 54. Plus 3 is 57. Looks like we had a good guess. We have 0 remaining. So 9 is the correct answer. And you could have done it this way as well. All right, the next one. Let's go down to a problem similar to this. We're kind of combining a lot of our lessons from this chapter. So the first thing I noticed is that this area of this face of my rectangular prism is given to me, and that's 66. That means that this side times this side together, so length and height, or width and height, however you look at this problem, I already know together equals 66. That's the area here. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and use that with my volume. So it's going to be my volume divided by the area. And the reason that is because you are looking for EF. You're looking for this side right here. Okay, which means that you already know these two measurements because they found the area by multiplying them. So they kind of did a step for you here by giving you 66. Okay, so now I need to go ahead and do my division. We're kind of in the same boat here as we were before. You can look at it in two ways. You can look at it as a fraction. Oops, I wrote it the wrong way. Make sure the first number always goes on the top of the fraction in the numerator. 264 over 66. You can always divide by 2 to kind of get smaller numbers to work with. I also chose 2 because I can do that mentally in my head. 2 divided by 2 is 1, 6 divided by 2 is 3, 4 divided by 2 is 2. 6 divided by 2 is 3, 6 divided by 2 is 3, and it comes out nice and even. So you can always solve that here. How many groups of 33 can you make out of 132? Well, I know that, let's say 3 groups. 3 groups of 33 would be 99. So let's go with 4 groups and see how that works. Looks like it works and it comes out nice and even. And it was a little bit easier for me to see with these numbers versus 66 and 264, but you can use either way, whatever works for you.